Director at Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek. I am director at Amica Immigration. Welcome to our channel. This is our first video, and the purpose of our channel will be to keep you updated with the latest updates in the Canadian immigration and also educate you on some of the popular programs and some of the programs that we believe will help you as you move forward in your Canadian immigration journey. So without further ado, let's get started. The agenda for today would be that I very briefly talk about myself, but that's not the agenda and not the focus. Focus will be to talk about express entry draws that happened last week. So there were three draws that happened. We'll look at the express entry pool table and we'll provide our analysis because we understand that a lot of you are anxious given some dynamic changes that have been happening in our immigration space in past few months. Then we'll talk about some of the major changes that IRCC is contemplating for PGWP program for international students. So you may be interested in those. And then OINP brought about some changes to their requirement for the nursing programs. And then also they have added about 35 new categories jobs to the in-demand skill stream that they have. So let's get started. Like I said, I am Abhishek Jain. I am director at Amica Immigration. I am a registered immigration consultant for Canada, and we are certified, regulated by CICC. So, jumping right into the topic. Also, before we start, I like to say that feel free to ask your questions. I am monitoring it separately, and if there are any questions, I will be happy to answer at that point in time. Or if I can, I'll probably wait till the end. So, moving on. So, like I said, the first topic that I'd like to touch upon here would be the draws that happened last week. So, there were three draws that happened after break of about a month. If you'll say that there was just one PNP draw that happened in between, but there were no particular draws that happened in the month of June. So, these were literally back to back on July 2nd, July 4th, and July 5th. July 2nd was a PNP draw for no particular category. By that I mean CEC or FSW. It was simply a PNP draw, which is applicable for everyone inside or outside Canada. There were 920 invitations that were issued. The lowest cutoff was 739. And then there were trades draw that happened, and it was first trade draw for the year 2024, I believe. And as part of this draw, there were 1,800 invites that were issued, and the cutoff was at 436. So again, you'll see that if you compare, and we'll see as we compare these cutoffs to the different other category draws, and you'll see that trades usually is on the lower side along with healthcare and agriculture. So this was 436, and then the third draw to happen was healthcare draw with cutoff at 445, which is much higher than the last healthcare draw that happened at 425. But but given that this draw happened after a few months, so it was kind of expected, and 3,750 invitations were issued as part of this draw. So you can clearly see the difference and the priorities that Canada is moving forward with. That PNP, of course, remains one of the draws that mostly attracts or mostly qualifies people who are already in Canada, with very few folks who can come outside from Canada. Similar for trades, and healthcare is one category that I keep saying to a lot of my clients that this is one category that folks from outside can qualify, because cutoff required is something that is achievable for healthcare professionals, which is 425, 445. This time it was 425 at in the last draw. So expect this to fall again in the next draw. Again, depends on the frequency of the draws. So won't put any assumptions on there. But you can expect that this particular stream will cutoff will stay below 450 as much as, at least for now, and we don't know going forward if more people start targeting the stream, cutoffs may go higher. But this is good time that healthcare still remains one of the streams that should be explored as one of the easier pathways to PR. And yeah, moving forward to the looking at the trades draw, these were the 10 job trades that were targeted in this draw. And going with the challenges Canada is facing in the construction sector, so you'll see that almost all of those are targeting the construction that would happen in Canada in large scale, which is ongoing and which is expected to increase as Canada tries to meet the demands, housing demands that it has been falling really behind in past 1 year at least. So trades is something that even as student, it's a category that you can choose whatever the situation be with the Canadian immigration. It is dynamic, yes, but also the fact is that trades will also always fetch you a PR, almost certainly, just because of the demand it has right now and the demand that is there for many years to come. Okay, we are struggling with housing, we are struggling with healthcare, and these two are primarily the fields that will always be in demand for at least till 2020, 30, and maybe even beyond that. So if you are already working in trades, please explore the PR options for you directly. If you are not, and if you are someone who is contemplating looking at their options coming to Canada, trades is something which can be a very strong option coming as a student and working in getting into one of those trades and then looking at your permanent resident options. Similarly, I mean, it will be very useful if you look at these list of the healthcare occupations that were targeted by the express entry draw that happened. So, pointing that you don't have to be a doctor to qualify for these draws, there are a lot of possibilities that that the people in assistant job in healthcare field can can be part of this domain too, can be part of this category too. So just look at this list and see if one of those qualifies you. And like I said, I'll repeat that this is one of the categories that will provide you one of the easiest pathway to PR going forward, at least for foreseeable future. We don't know the way things are in Canada, what will be the cutoffs, what will be the challenges that the stream may bring in going forward. But for next few months or maybe even a year, this should be one of the streams that should be an easier pathway to PR compared to some of the other streams that exist. So this is the table. These are all the draws that have happened in the year 2024. So you'll see that there have been mixture of draws with, with general category draws. French being something that has been given a lot of preference this year. There has been one transport draw, one trade draw. Like I said, there have been a couple of healthcare draws, couple of STEM draws, and you'll see one Canadian experience class draw, which is something that only happened during the COVID times and which has been brought back, which is something that minister has been very explicit about, that they want to target people who are already in Canada to transition them to PR rather than looking for people from outside. And not saying people from outside don't have a chance, like we just saw the healthcare occupations, but also fact is that we have 2.8 million here in Canada, 2.8 million temporary residents, and most of them do want to transition to PR. And Canada only opens 300,000 economic immigration slots per year. So competition is huge for people in Canada. People from outside Canada still does not mean that you cannot become PR, but for now, Canada is targeting folks who are in Canada. They will at least be given preference at federal and provincial level both. So just look at some of these numbers on the right side, wherein the general category have targeted 14,500 people almost, which is big, but of course it is much larger pool of people that are competing in that particular category. French speakers, surprisingly, has been very high in number at 12,500, almost very close to the general category. But again, just one of the indications for people inside or outside Canada that if you are proficient in French, that this is the draw which is targeting you. Okay, and this is draw outside of Quebec. Okay, Quebec always remains one of the provinces that is one of the easier options for French speakers. But it's not even about Quebec anymore. It's even at federal level. French speakers are being encouraged to relocate to Canada, emphasizing the importance Canada gives to French as its second language, or even call it primary language. And then you'll see PNPs have their own niche, wherein we have 5,400 people. Canadian experience class, there has been only one draw, so 3,000 is still a very huge number for those. Agriculture, as you would understand, there has been one draw. Cutoff has been 437, which is quite low. Won't expect a lot of invitations in this particular category. But yep, if you are in agricultural sector, it is worthwhile going into the category-based selection list and see if your occupation qualifies for it. Then there have been targeted transport draw. Again, one of the categories. If you qualify, it's much easier. If you just look at the cutoffs, right? Let's compare the cutoff in the general category, which has been at 524 at the lowest and 549 at the highest. Versus if you compare it to transport, there was only one draw, so it is at 430, almost 100 points less than the general draw. Similarly, if you look at healthcare draw, so it's again more than 100 points less than the general category draw. Similarly, agriculture. So again, just emphasizing that these are the streams that if you qualify, that that you have easier option, or you have at least practical chance of getting PR through federal programs, versus general category folks. That, I mean, 530, 524 itself is a very, very huge number. You need to have very good parameters to be able to hit that kind of a number. And STEM, we all know technology is always in a lot of focus. We do have a lot of people who relocate, especially from parts of India, in technology stream. And that's the reason that you'll see that cutoff is fairly high at 491. And if I remember that last time around, when last STEM draw happened, it was still at 481. So so yeah, STEM is one of the options still, much lesser than general category, but I wouldn't expect STEM to be coming below 480 in itself. So if you are a technology professional, that is number that you should be focusing to hit 480, 490, because these are the numbers. Because right now we are only looking at express entry, but then there are other provinces that provide the immigration options for folks in technology. Yes, you have to be careful that your specific knock code or tier level may or may not be part of a certain stream, but OINP has great respect for technology professionals. Then BC has some good programs. Alberta has accelerated tech pathways. So, so those are some of the options for folks who are in STEM and specifically technology. So yeah, so that's pretty much the analysis, that if you are struggling to get a higher score, agriculture, healthcare, trades, provincial, not provincial nomination, sorry, agriculture, transport, healthcare, and trades are something that you should be targeting. Technology professionals, you have options. People sitting in general category, I don't have a lot of options these days. I do get a lot of calls, do get a lot of questions, but struggle is real, and you really have to put your head down, understand your options, short term and long term, that if you are interested in securing Canadian PR, that what are the practical options for you. Do not get scammed. Do not pay money where you don't understand the entire pathway of how you are securing the PR. So be very careful. I understand the struggles are real in this particular category, but so is the fact that people will be ready to scam you for money. So be very careful, and approach this with patience. Okay, make sure that you try and draw a long-term plan for yourself rather than looking for shortcut options. Not saying they won't work, they may work. Okay, but also chances are that they may not work. So point is that something that is more definitive, or at least largely definitive, if not very specifically definitive, that may give you some confidence that, okay, if I take these 5 steps, is when I get the PR. Okay, and then of course, if it's your clearly your option, that if you have some contacts and you want to go routes that may fetch you PR early by spending much more money, take those options. Everybody has their own priorities, but be judicious and careful that you are aware on how you are getting your tier. Again, just emphasizing on the same fact, this is the pool as of July 2nd, and you'll still see that there are 16,500 people above the score of 500. So any general category candidate sitting below the score of 500, express entry most likely is not for you, at least not in 2024. We do expect with CC draws, we would expect more CC draws. We would expect the scores to be coming down, but below 500 is not something that I would anticipate. 505, possibly the lowest if it comes till there, or else 510 is somewhere. I think that the score will bottom out. But yeah, we'll just wait and watch, and then you'll see that it mostly becomes about the category based selection. Anything below 500 is about category based selection, and the STEM professionals think between 480 to 500. Healthcare professionals can think healthcare, transport, trades can think between 400 and 450. If you're sitting below 400, then we really need to think about what your profile is and if it is even practical for you to continue pursuing the Canadian PR through federal pathways at least. Moving forward, so that was all on the express entry. If you have any questions that I can answer at this point in time. Okay, so I do have some questions coming in. Okay, so the first question is, thanks for conducting webinar. I recently graduated from a Canadian university. Can I start working immediately? When will my work experience begin to count towards express entry profile? Okay, that's a great question. Now that we were just about touching on PGWP, so your experience will start the day you apply for PGWP. When can you apply for PGWP is when you finish your studies and you have confirmation from your college or university with the final transcript and your completion letter or certificate. So between that time, and this is something that a lot of students are not made aware of, is that between the time that your course is marked complete, that is, you have received your full and final from your educational institute, till the time you apply for PGWP, you cannot work. So if you are applying on the same day, great, you can continue working. If you apply within one day, most likely you can still continue working. But if say you are waiting for a few days, months, want to take some break before applying for PGWP, make sure that you are not working. And when I say not working, it's not about the experience letters, it is about what is being reported to CRA by your employer. So, and like I said, your next answer to the second part is, when does your experience get starts counting? Is the day you apply for PGWP and you are already working, is when your experience will start counting towards the express entry Canadian experience. And please be mindful that your job has to be a tier 3 or a higher job for it to be counted towards express entry. Got another question here. I just received an ITA in the last healthcare draw. What steps should I take to ensure that I get my PR approved? First of all, congratulations on that. And the steps you need to make sure is that just be very precise with your documentation. And by documentation, it's mostly about what you claimed when you were creating your express entry profile. Okay, meaning there was basic information with regards to your age, etc. But then some of the bigger things were education. So make sure that your education is verified from the right authority. Make sure the experience is provided in the manner that has been asked for, which means that it should have all the parameters, and I strictly mean all the parameters that IRCC is looking for in your experience letter that you get from your employer. And if there is anything missing, then it has to be explained to IRCC separately. Also, you need to ensure that you put in the pay stubs. If you're not able to put in pay stubs, you have a very valid reason for it. why pay stubs are not there. If pay stubs are not there, there are still ways to prove your experience through your tax forms and few other things that I won't be touching on specifics, but point remains that anything that you have claimed point for needs to be explained, and do not worry about the periods for which you have not claimed points, if even if there were gaps. Okay, all of them will be covered in your personal history section. Okay, so make sure that you cover everything in personal history without missing a single day. Okay, that can lead to rejection. Make sure you include police clearance certificate. We have seen applications being rejected straight out because either PCC was not valid or was not provided, and it was just some empty document have been provided in lieu. Okay, that does not work. So make sure that you provide your PCC. Make sure you go for upfront medical. Your medical is provided. So all the normal things or the normal documents are considered essential as part of the application processing, or your application will simply be returned, and there is no other way. It won't be like that you can complete your application and submit it again. Okay, once your application is sorry once your application is returned, means that your application has been rejected and you will have to wait for another other ITA to be able to apply again. Okay, so make sure that you submit all the documents that are being asked for, and in the format, not format per se, but with the information that IRCC is seeking. Okay, anything that is missing needs to be provided as part of the explanation. Okay, there can be challenges sometimes in securing the experience letter itself. Okay, so in that case, you may have to try reaching out to your seniors or other peers from that job, or else the final option is using an affidavit. But some anything that is not in line with what IRCC is asking throws open your case and it makes it subjective. Okay, so be careful on how you are presenting your documentation to IRCC. How does co-op internship during my studies affect eligibility, work experience for gets little subjective, but to stay very objective, your any experience as student is not helping you towards express entry. It does in a edge case for if you are applying under FSW skill, but like I said, it's a very edge case and it works in a very specific scenario. So in general, the rule of thumb is that any experience you gain as student won't help you with your express entry. What else do we have? And yeah, feel free to ask any repeat questions. That's perfectly all right. I'll be going through them. Hi Abhishek, can my spouse's education and work experience contribute to our express entry profile? Great question. It absolutely does. In fact, if you are married, say a very normal profile can be that you came to Canada, you studied, you're working, and your spouse came with you, and he is working too. And now the challenge here is that as soon as you are married, there is a certain set of points which are allocated to your spouse automatically. Okay, and if say your spouse is lacking in education, they are lacking in work experience, and by work experience for spouse in express entry, only work experience that counts is inside Canada work experience, and there are no points allocated for outside Canada work experience. Okay, so work experience counts in Canada. Work experience counts for the spouse. Their education absolutely counts, and if it is outside Canada education, which most likely it is, make sure that you get it evaluated from the right body. Also, what matters is their language score. Okay, it does not have as much importance as to the score of primary candidate, but they still have, I think, 20 points, which is quite substantial in the larger scheme. So that helps too. That make sure that they go for language exam, even if they get lower score, any point helps. They get their education credentials evaluated, and work experience wise, only the Canadian work experience counts. All right then. So those are the questions we have for now, and I'll move on to our next topic for the afternoon. which is the changes happening to PGWP, and which any prospective international student or international student who are even in Canada should pay very special attention to. We also did a fairly long 8 or 9 episode series on this particular topic, providing our views as to what each of these means. Okay, so I again like you to be carefully going through each of these points that have been listed and understand that how they can help you or maybe even work against you going forward. Okay, largely what IRCC is going towards is that they are now trying to ensure that the study programs being offered are in line with the requirements, long term, even short term, and by not short term per se, but yeah, mid term to long term requirements of Canadian labor market. Okay, so these won't be just so if you remember, like 2 years ago, at least people who were there, they were know that the education system was uncontrolled. The colleges, especially colleges, were allowed to just start programs they wished, and most of those programs eventually became, at least what students thought at that time, that they became PR pathways. But right now, the condition is that neither those programs are helping people secure PR, nor they are helping them finding a job because they did not provide the education to the standard that is needed for securing a job. So, with that, Canadian immigration authorities are getting strict, or they have been forced to get strict, and they are thinking of restricting or not restricting per se, but aligning the programs, that study programs, with the labor market needs. So once the program starts get aligning, automatically the people coming out of those courses will be filling in the jobs, would be expected to fill in the jobs that are in that for which we are struggling, for which Canada is struggling, for which there is labor shortage. Like I mean, again, if you can go to some of our other videos, you will find that very large percentage of people who came to Canada in past 2 years for study came in business and marketing programs. Okay, no, Canada does not need so many business and marketing professionals. Okay, the reason that you will not find a job, or you may struggle to find a job if you take a course in that category, versus if you are taking your courses in healthcare fields, or say early childhood educators, the personal support workers, trades. Okay, so those are the fields that, yes, people were coming in there, but just the large percentage were coming in very different, very generic programs that wouldn't help them or help Canada. So that's the gap that is being targeted here, that Canada immigration authorities are trying to fill, that they are making sure that colleges and universities keep the right programs. And even then, once the PGWP is issued, which is that people complete their education and now are working, authorities want to ensure that people are working in field which is in shortage. Okay, so if you are someone who did program in technology, and you are becoming supervisor at a Tim Horton, is what authorities are trying to avoid. That if you're a person who did your education in technology, you got a job in technology, you will get 1 year of work permit. But to make sure that you get another 2 years of work permit or extended work permit, you need to show that you are in occupation in technology. Okay, so that just was just one very good example which sums up as to what authorities are targeting. They are reaching out to provinces to make sure that, okay, federal government does not understand all of the provinces requirements. So they are trying to reach out to provinces, make sure provinces are taken into consideration, taken into confidence with regards to the programs being offered in that particular province. And eventual goal is to avoid the situation we are sitting in right now, that people are struggling to find right pathways to PR. We have large number of international graduates, but most of them are struggling to find right pathways to PR. Most of them are struggling to find the right jobs in the field of their study. And yeah, hopefully with these changes, yes, there would be negative impacts. We would be surprised if there are no negative impacts, but we hope that they don't impact the existing folks in Canada. But there can be no surety that whether these folks will be grandfathered into the new system, or whether the changes will be a big impact, a blanket impact on all the students, current or future students who are already in Canada. So again, even we are waiting and watching as to how these are implemented, if all of these are implemented or not. But the impact would be high, that's for sure. And changes would happen, that's another thing that we are sure upon, just because of the fact that where we stand, where our entire economy stands, because some of the missteps that were taken in the immigration space in past few years. Moving on, like we were talking about some of the requirement changes in OINP programs. So first of all, we like to talk about the changes in the requirements for the nurses who are applying under human capital priority stream and the French speaking skilled worker streams. So nurses are not required to demonstrate that they meet this requirement if they meet both or following of the conditions, meaning that if they are registered with the College of Nurses for Ontario, and if they fall under these very specific knock codes, they would be all right and they would be exempted from the educational requirements, which was earlier a mandate. So good news. And the and how it helps and also emphasizes the fact that it's not just at the federal level, but even at provincial level, especially Ontario, which is by far the largest province in Canada, that healthcare remains one of the streams that is being targeted and that will be targeted for many years to come, starting now and going into the future. So if you're one of the healthcare professionals inside or outside Canada, okay, this is something that you can take confidence in, and you'll have to work for it. If you, especially you are outside Canada, you will, there is a lot of work involved in coming to Canada and then registering yourself. But this is something that you can take confidence in, that if you are in healthcare profession, there are very high chances that you can immigrate to Canada as permanent resident through federal programs or through programs like Ontario nomination programs, HCP, and other category based selection programs. Moving on, the last piece of information that we talked about in the beginning that we would touch upon is that Ontario, keeping their focus on trades, have added these 35 new knock codes, meaning these 35 new job categories to their skill in demand skill stream, which is earlier I think it had 22 streams, now it has 57 streams. 22 jobs, now it has 57 jobs. So if you are in any of these categories, then it will give you a very good chance to qualify for PR through Ontario programs. But again, emphasizing the same fact like we did for healthcare, sorry, that the healthcare and trades remain couple of streams which will provide you easier PR versus any of the general category. Tech is something which provides you different options, but none of them are as easy as trades or healthcare. So again, if you are in these categories or if you know someone in these categories, you can always encourage them to look at their options, look at their PR options, and see if they can qualify or not. All right, with that, I will get back to some of the questions that have been asked. And yeah, before we call it a day, let's see. Hi Abhishek, how does the provincial nomination program work in conjunction with express entry, and how can I apply for provincial nomination? Again, a very good question, a broad question. Let's see, I can best answer this. So provincial nomination options are, we got about what, 80, 90 different categories or different streams in provincial nomination provided by all of the other provinces. And not all of these streams work through express entry. So very simple example I like to take is for Ontario nomination, OINP. So OINP has 6 to 8 different streams that they provide for the. Let me just maybe open the link and share. Okay. So if you look at Ontario nomination, we got these different streams, which is job offer stream, we got some graduate streams, and then we got HCP skilled trade and French speaking skilled worker stream. So these are like 3, 5, 8 streams that Ontario provides. Out of these, only these 3 streams, human capital priority stream, skilled trade stream, and the French speaking skilled worker stream are the ones which work with express entry. And you can clearly see here that these are called Ontario's express entry streams, meaning that you submit your profile in express entry, and based on your points, based on your knock codes, primary knock code, if province, if you fit the draw that is conducted by the province, you will be provided a nomination, not nomination per se, you will be invited a notification of interest in your express entry profile. Okay, meaning as soon as you receive the notification of interest, you can submit your application to Ontario province. They will evaluate your application, and if successful, you will be granted the nomination from the province, and it will be provided directly in your express entry profile. Meaning that as soon as nomination is provided, you will see that your score in express entry will jump by 600 points. And so that's specifically with express entry, and that's how largely all of the other provinces will work. There are slight difference to the processes, but point being that your profile, you only need to create one profile. At times, in certain cases, you have to apply explicitly to provinces as well. But those programs, the eventual nomination will be provided directly into your express entry profile, versus some of the other streams wherein you have to go to the through the system of that particular province. Like in case of Ontario, that system is called interest expression of interest streams. Okay, in which you have foreign worker stream, you have international student stream, and you have in demand skill stream, and all 3 of these require the employer job offer support. And then you have 2 other streams for the master graduates from very specific universities, and the PhD graduate stream. So all of these streams, they work outside of express entry, meaning process is slightly different, wherein you have to submit your nomination. You may have to create your profile in the system of that particular province, submit your application to them, get the nomination, and once you have the nomination from that particular province, you will have to send the paper application to IRCC to secure the permanent residence. That answered your question. All right, then I do not see any more questions. And with that, I will like to end this webinar. Again, making sure that you understand that if you are a healthcare professional, transport, agriculture, someone in personal support, you will have much easier options relocating to Canada as a permanent residence, or if you are already in Canada, transitioning to permanent resident, versus if you are STEM guy, or one in technology, you may have to struggle a little bit, but there are a lot of options that are available, as tax still remains in a lot of focus in Canada. If you're one in general category, look for provincial options. See if you're able to make your score reach the cutoffs that are being looked at. You can still take solace in the fact that IRCC is focusing on CEC, meaning that should bring down cutoff a little bit, but challenge is real. Okay, so do not take any step without understanding the implications of it. Try to be patient, try to lay down long-term target for you on how you can secure your PR. And if you have any questions, any concerns, you can always feel free to reach out to us, and we will be very happy to provide you that consultation. So with that, thank you, and thank you for your time that you have taken to listen to us. Bye.